When I was a young boy, I guess maybe 12, something like that, maybe 11. I was staying at my grandmother's and grandpa's house, and in the backyard, my uncle had been sharpening a saw, the one like you cut down trees, in a vise. Now, I'm just a young, wild kid, and so back then Tarzan was on TV and all of that, so I was going to run, grab a limb, and swing like Tarzan. I ran, grabbed a limb, and started swinging, and the limb broke, and I fell across the saw that was in the vise in the work table behind my grandmother's house, ripped me all the way open, cut all of my entrails out. They fell on the ground. I'm telling you guys, it cut me wide open. All my stuff fell out on the ground. There was chicken feathers, chicken poop, everything else there. And my grandfather, he was not a medic. He plowed a mule named Shorty. And my grandfather ran out there, pulled my flap up, my stomach, picked up my guts, picked up my insides and poked them in. He didn't say this looks like a spleen or it could be a kidney. He just poked it back in. Chicken feathers, dust, dirt, everything. Picked me up, carried me in there to my grandmother's kitchen, laid me on the kitchen floor, and back then they cured meat with salt, and he goes over the salt bin and he scoops up a big old thing of salt, pulls the flap up, throws in a big scoop of salt in me. Say invigorating. Yeah. I'm telling you. See, salt, the doctors later on said what saved this boy from having infection was salt and kerosene. My grandfather poured the salt in me, then went over there to the kerosene bin and got a coffee can full of kerosene, walked back and picked the flap up and poured in the kerosene. See, I had a rough upbringing, you know, but that's the truth now. Isn't that they never sewed me up, they tied me together in bed sheets. Isn't that something? But anyway, salt works. That's what I'm trying to say. It drove out the infection, and we're to be salt and what? Light. And so we need the light shining. I want to tell you about light. Psalms 18:28.
Now, that had to be supernatural.
That's supernatural.
You still have me there with
I'm
your
stunned.
guts falling out.
Yeah, I told that story, I'm telling you, right in California, and a guy looked like he's trying to stop a cab in New York, waving his hand like that. I said, you want to say something? He said, yes, I do. He said, I'm a leading gastrologist surgeon. Could I examine you? And I said, well, yeah, come on, knock yourself out. Now, there's couple of thousand people in the room, so we got up there on the platform, and I didn't want to take my shirt off in front of all those people and look like Free Willy or something. So when the doctor got behind the curtains at the church, I took my shirt off. He goes nuts. Whoa, that's the doctor making these sounds, because I'd had no suturing, and he said, this is impossible. These muscles have to be sutured a certain way or you'll have a hernia. And nobody put a stitch in me. They tied me together with bed sheets because the doctor said, we're not going to sew him up. We're going to leave him open, let him drain because we don't think he's going to make it. And here's what the doctor said to me back behind the curtain that day. He said, you've got to come to my office. He said, I've got to document this thing. I said to him, sir, I don't need any documentation. I was there when it happened.